Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
All right, and welcome back into another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. It is our Friday record, which means it's NCAA picks time, and I am in a cold, drafty studio flying solo, but Token Tony, who has obligations right after the show, is joining on the phone. So, Token, what's up, dude? We skipped last week. How'd it go for you?
Yeah. NFL was pretty brutal. NCAA didn't have too much action, but did all right on.
Yeah, right on.
Fairly profitable. Yeah,
I tell you, I kind of, I know a lot of people had, in the pod had things going on and couldn't get pods going last week, but I kind of stepped away from football. I still made, actually, full disclosure, I let the producer, my fiance, make the picks for the NFL bet that we have, and she didn't do so hot. So now she's put me in a little bit of a hole against Tony Johnson and Spike, although the good news is I'm still ahead of you, so that's a good thing to be.
I think the dice are still ahead of me, too. So
yeah, the dice might be, too. That's true. So, anyways, like I said, This is the Vegas Squares podcast. Token Tony and myself here on the mics and the phones. We're going to thank the sponsors real quick, and then we're going to get into some college football. We're going to break down a few games here on the slate coming up Saturday in the world of NCAA. We've got 12-ounce sports, obviously. We're on every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Fridays and Saturdays for college football, and Sundays pregame for the NFL. We give you our picks for that as well. Also, want to thank Seat Giant, promo code 12-ounce sports for discounts on sporting events, concerts, and your theater tickets. All right, so let's kind of just dive right in to college football. Before we get into the games, I know we ask this every time we're on the air for college football, and I'll ask it again because it really, although it hasn't changed, there's some dynamics in the field coming up that really I think are going to make this decision a little bit more difficult. And you know what question's coming, Token, and that's if you had a Heisman vote, who would get your Heisman today?
Well, as right now, it's definitely not Tua at the moment. But, I mean, that could definitely change as the season goes along.
Yeah, I said the same thing about that. I mean, even though he gets hurt, it's going to hurt him now. But if he's back SEC championship time, they're always about that, what have you done for me lately, especially the voters. That's going to be an interesting wrinkle, I think, in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, my top two candidates right now would be Joe Burrow out of LSU, and I would even say Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I think he's still a likely candidate, even though they got upset last week.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, that was a tough one for them. It creates an interesting matchup this week with Ohio State, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, I think if I had to have a vote right now to win the Heisman today, I would say Joe Burrow as well. I was on the Jalen Hurts train for a long time, and not that I'm off it necessarily. I just think the level of competition that Joe Burrow has succeeded at versus the level of competition that Jalen Hurts has been able to succeed against are vastly different. You've got a Florida team that Joe Burrow was able to put up 42 points on. Texas, which we know, obviously, a common opponent for Oklahoma and LSU. I thought Joe Burrow looked better in the game against Texas than Jalen Hurts did against Texas. So, yeah, I would have to say Joe Burrow in that spot as well. I would agree with you in that. But I'm telling you, I think Tagovailoa, if he comes back for the Iron Bowl, probably the SEC.
Yeah, a lot of key games. And
even his stats are fantastic right now. I mean, if the only reason I think people are really down on him is because he's going to miss, potentially 2 to 4 weeks. It's going to create an issue, and I think that might be why he loses the Heisman is just because of the chunk of games.
Missing those games, and
that he's going to miss is going to create a obvious discrepancy in the stat lines for him versus the other candidates. But yeah, I mean, Jonathan Taylor is an interesting one. I think with Wisconsin losing to the team that they lost to, while that's not necessarily Jonathan Taylor's fault, that will probably end up hurting him in the long run. But a big game against Ohio State would be huge, I think.
Yeah, if they can pull up the upset, and he's the key to that game, I think that raises his stock in the Heisman race for sure.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start into the games because we've got about 10 to 13 games to talk about here over the next roughly hour or so, and we'd want to get everything of the majors in before the games start. If you're listening on Saturday, if you're listening on Friday, obviously you've got time, but we want to help out the Saturday listeners because the games will be starting soon. So let's dive right in. First game I have on the docket is the aforementioned Oklahoma Sooners, Jalen Hurts and company, 7-0, traveling to Manhattan, Kansas to take on Kansas State, who, albeit 4-2, started off very impressive, were ranked at one point before losing to Oklahoma State, have fallen out of the picture in terms of the Big 12 race, but I think they still present a little bit of a challenge to Oklahoma. The line currently is 23.5, total 57. Obviously, we know about OU, the top scoring offense in the nation, 50 points a game. But Kansas State is the top scoring defense in the Big 12 at only 18.7 points a game.
Yes, I mean, you got a very strong offense in Oklahoma and then a decent K-State defense bashing heads. And, I mean, it's a game of what gives and how much does it give and all that. I mean, you got a lot of trends, but there are a lot of contradicting trends, in my opinion. I mean, the one that kind of screams to me is the under in this game, especially with K-State. I mean, under for the Kansas State Wildcats in their last 7 conference games, and then in their last 16 home games overall, they're 13-3. Same with on-field turf.
Yeah,
I mean, screams under. But however, my play on this game, I just think this Oklahoma offense is too much for the Kansas State defense to handle, and they cover the 23.5 by winning by like 27.
Yeah, I was looking at that. That's a funky number, 23.5. It doesn't really fall on any of the standard scoring lines, 17, 20, 21, 24. I mean, 23.5 is really a weird number. You talked about, Kansas State's defensive efficiency, best in the country in third down, 23.9% conversion rate for opposing teams, which is incredible. I mean, 2 out of every 10 times their defense allows a first down. That's in the nation against everybody, so it's not just a Big 12 kind of stat right there. But the thing is I'm curious about Thompson. I wouldn't say he's the whole offense, but he might be a big chunk of it. It'd be interesting. I mean, Oklahoma, like you said, Jalen Hurts, so many weapons. CeeDee Lamb has 10 touchdowns already. And you have Kennedy Brooks, who is just been on a tear the last couple of games. I think Oklahoma wins this game comfortably. However, I don't know if I'm thinking 3 touchdowns. 17 to 21 points is the area. So that's what I see in this game. I think the game's low scoring, like you said, Token, and I think somewhere around like a 41 to 20 kind of game is where I see it. Kansas State never really is in the game necessarily, but I think all we really care about is the magic number, and that's 23.5 in that spot.
Yeah, if I have a score prediction, I would say 37 to 10, something around there.
Yeah, fair enough. So,
Oklahoma with the cover and the under comes through.
Yeah. All right, another top 25 team teeing off at 9 a.m. Pacific time here, and that's Iowa traveling to Northwestern. Game is a 9.5-point spread in favor of the Hawkeyes. Low total, as we always see with Iowa games, at 37. Opened up at 38. It's come down a point. Northwestern has been kind of a dumpster fire this year. They are 1-5 overall, 2-4 against the spread. They are averaging 12 points a game. I don't see how they have any shot at really even making a competitive game, other than the fact that Iowa's offense doesn't really start fast, which gives them the opportunity to be in games that they shouldn't necessarily be close in. They should be dominating. You would think Nate Stanley, who is third all-time in TD passes, would have this offense in a little bit more of a rhythm. It just doesn't seem like they want to run away with games, and maybe that's the kind of style that Coach Ferentz likes. I wouldn't love it as an Iowa fan to try to play. They had the 18-17.
You're in the stands with your hands on your head and like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean they've played two road games, true road games this year against Iowa State and Michigan, and they've scored 21 points total. 18-17 loss, 18-17 win at Iowa State and a 10-3 loss at Michigan. So I think what Kirk Ferentz would like to do is probably not have to be the cardiac kids at home. But, it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, I'm not saying Northwestern's a complete dumpster fire, but they lost 52-3 by Ohio State last week, and they almost have virtually nothing when it comes to offense.
Yeah, I mean, it is very awful for, I would say, both these offenses, and especially on the Northwestern side. But however, I think Iowa just doesn't cover that number, and I think this game could even go to overtime, and which is a concern for me for the total. Total seems pretty low, and I'd still maybe lean towards the under the 37, but not a play on that. But I think Northwestern even has a shot to win this game. I think.
Well, they have won the last three against Iowa. Last year, they won 14-10, another low-scoring game, which Iowa was favored by 7.5 that game.
Yeah, I'll play the safer route, take Northwestern plus the 9.5 as a bigger play, and do a little sprinkle, like half of the unit, or not even half the unit, a fifth of a unit.
A fifth
of a unit. Plus 320 for the money line. Yeah.
Oh, be careful there. Dangerous. I see low scoring in this game. 37. Always those totals in the 30s, whether they're college or pro, always kind of tend to scare me because all it takes is one team to try to get this by themselves. These two teams don't seem like the type of programs that this year are going to do that. But I think depending on how high you can find the money line, I think the safe bet in this spot might be either the under or Iowa money line. I don't think either team can really score. This game could be close, maybe even a little happiness middle with Iowa money line if you can get it to come down with Northwestern plus 9.5. Try to hit both. Maybe have a 6-point game, something like 17-13, 17-10, something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking around that line, like 17-14, something like that.
Yeah, so.
All right, I won't be surprised with the Northwestern victory, though.
Yeah, it could happen.
Even though they are a hot dumpster fire.
Yeah, you'll win that fifth of a unit. Big spender.
Yeah, I know.
All right,
I really like Northwestern plus the points, though.
Let's look at the showdown of showdowns in the 9 a.m. hour here on the West Coast. 13, Wisconsin at number 4, Ohio State. I got Iowa on the brain. We have a 2-touchdown favorite in Ohio State, 14.5 points to be exact. Wisconsin coming off of an ugly loss. I mean, no one saw that coming. I mean, Illinois was a 35-1 dog, and they won outright on the last second field goal there. I still believe that the Wisconsin team can give Ohio State a run for its money. The total is 49.5. Like I said, you got 7-0 Ohio State, obviously looking to get into the playoff. They've got a few more hurdles. Obviously, Wisconsin here being one of them, Michigan is another one, and of course the Big Ten championship. But I know that they would like to be the representative from the Big Ten conference to get into that playoff. Right now, this is the matchup ahead of them. I think a lot of money, if I'm looking at it correctly. I'm trying to look at the where the money's going. Yeah, 76% is going in on Ohio State right now as far as the spread. I think a lot of people just, are making a way too much of that loss to Illinois, and rightfully so. That's fine, but when it comes from a ranking standpoint, you're more than welcome to have those feelings. But from a betting standpoint, we still have a defense in Wisconsin that's ranked number 1 in total defense, passing defense, rushing defense, and scoring defense in the nation. But you have Ohio State, who is number 2 in the nation in passing defense, total defense, scoring defense, and they're number 9 in rushing defense. So, I mean, this just screams slow, methodical, 3 yards in a cloud of dust football.
Yeah, I mean, this one will be definitely a fun one to watch. So if any team can produce on offense or make a few key plays, move the chains, and get in at least field goal range, if not, maybe put one in the end zone here and there. I mean, spreads 14.5, like we said, and my play is Wisconsin on that side. You know me, I like taking the public, and especially where all the money's coming in. 14.5 is way too many points in my opinion. If I had to create a line myself, it would have been closer to 10.5.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I know that Wisconsin, the question mark really is the quarterback, Jack Cohn. I think Taylor is gonna really be the key here. If he can break open and pace the offense, I mean, he leads the nation in scoring, 16 points a game. He has 15 rushing touchdowns. He's going to have to be huge in this game, which would help further solidify what you were talking about in terms of, his Heisman candidacy. This is the game, I mean, that he would have to do it against. I mean, I think he needs 175 to 225 yards, a couple of touchdowns. That would help, obviously, take a lot of pressure off Jack Cohn, who is, an average quarterback. I mean, he's only been intercepted twice. He leads the nation, second in the nation in completion percentage, 76%. But his interceptions have come at costly times of the year, and obviously the one last week set up Illinois' game-winning field goal.
Yeah.
But, Wisconsin's defense combined with Jonathan Taylor is really where I think I would agree with you. I think 14.5 points is a lot. I think this game's somewhere in the 20 to 17 range. I think we see almost one of those old-school Big Ten, 9 a.m. games that
classic
really
defense against
defense and inefficient offense that really has grown for most of the country, not in that area of the nation, to be bored with Big Ten football. I hope not, but I feel like that might be it. I mean, Justin Fields is the star in this game, but he's also in his first season. I mean, he has 22 touchdowns through the air, 8 touchdowns on the ground. But, is this the first big game in 8 weeks of his career? This might be the first big game against a defense that has a pulse.
I mean, like you said, low scoring, kind of old school Big Ten kind of football. I think Wisconsin might even have a shot to pull this one out.
I think they absolutely do, but it's hard to say that.
They've got nothing. They've got nothing to lose except for this game, and this pretty much makes or breaks the season.
They got nothing to lose except for the game. That's a very direct quote.
Absolutely.
The Buckeyes have only lost one home Big Ten game since 2010. So there's another food for thought on that one. That's going to be tough. It's tough to win in the horseshoe. So, I mean, if anybody can do it, I think Wisconsin's the team to do it. But it'll be a tough one. I think Ohio State comes out with a victory, but I think it's closer than the 14.5 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State, with that staff, though, they've had Urban Meyer until this season, and that does make somewhat of a difference, but the Ohio State team is still a good team, so.
Sure, but I mean, Ryan Day's been with Urban Meyer for the last few years. He knows the system. It's not really a complete overhaul of culture and things like that.
Not bringing a new regime and new coordinators, stuff like that.
Exactly. So, all right, let's switch gears, move into the afternoon slate, the noon.
Oh, I actually have one more play in the morning.
You got a morning play. Okay, lay it on me.
Yep. I've got two on the same game. I like Bowling Green plus the 27.5 against Western Michigan University. I think their defense will be able to contain Western Michigan to roughly about 27 to 31 points, and Bowling Green puts up about 10 to 14.
Okay.
They do not hold the upset like they did against Toledo 2 weeks ago, and this game goes under, which is 63.5.
There's a lot of points.
Yeah.
Another one that I've been hearing, the Illinois and Purdue game. The line's currently 57. From what I understand, just from reading in inside circles, I guess, a couple of people that live in West Lafayette say that there is a massive storm brewing that's due to dump rain there around noon Saturday. So if that's the case, then I'd say grabbing 57, because you know how football is in the rain. I feel like you got to feel good about having 57 points at your disposal.
You look at even the pro game. I mean, you look at the Redskins 49ers game last week, and they put up 9.
9 total.
Yeah,
9 total points. Yeah, that was a barn burner, if I do say so myself. But I don't feel good about that one because I had San Francisco minus 9.5. That was so gross.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll move into the afternoon slate here. Start with Okie State and Iowa State, which is an interesting game in the Big 12 because both teams, while can slay giants, also have their deficiencies at each time. I mean, you got Oklahoma State 4-3, beat Kansas State like we talked about when Kansas State was ranked, but they're 1-3 in the Big 12, and that only win is against Kansas State. You have Iowa State, who's 5-2, but 3-1 in the Big 12, still very much alive in the Big 12 race with Brock Purdy and the Iowa State Cyclones. This game currently is at 10.5 in favor of the Cyclones. The total is 63.5. In this spot, it's interesting. I really don't know. I mean, Oklahoma State still, with Chuba Hubbard, has the ability to just put up tons of points. Last week in the loss to Baylor, he put up 171 and 2 touchdowns. He has 1,265 yards on the season, which leads the nation and is actually 300 yards plus more than the second place guy. So, I mean, it's going to be a tough test for Iowa State. I don't think this is just one of those teams to just roll over in the Big 12, but they're definitely not in the race for the Big 12 anymore. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think we've got two offenses that are just going to go back and forth with each other. Like I said, you got Brock Purdy, he has 2,100 yards, threw for almost 400 last week, and they've got 2 running backs. First one, freshman Hall, has 315 yards over the last 2 games. So they've been playing some pretty good ball lately. Iowa State won last year 48-42, so I'm expecting high scoring in this game. I like the over. I think they might put up 80 points.
Yeah, I agree with that total for sure. I mean, both these defenses put up big chunks of yards and all that here and there, and you got average for Iowa State at 480 yards per game, and then against Oklahoma State defense giving up about 430. And then, I mean, Iowa State's defense is better than Oklahoma State's defense, but not much better. I mean, you got the Oklahoma State powerhouse offense with Chuba Hubbard, and they're putting up almost 520 yards per game. And Oklahoma's defense, or Iowa State's defense, is giving about 330 yards per game, which for the Big 12 is actually pretty low. But I do agree with you in the over on this one. And actually, kind of like Iowa State in this one, late in the 10.5 as well.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on one way or the other with Iowa State or Oklahoma State on the line, but I do believe Iowa State being somewhere in the 40s, Oklahoma State be somewhere in the 30s. I could see 49-35, or I could see...
Yeah, I was thinking 45-30, something around there.
45-30 gets it both done there. Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I think this is a good. Hopefully, if Iowa State wins, keeps pace in the Big 12, because I think to stay relevant, they need to have another game, or at least another opponent that challenges Oklahoma in that spot. So they'll be an interesting team to keep an eye on here. They're going forward because obviously Texas is 5-2 as well as Iowa State, but they've already lost to Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. So Iowa State might be the next man up. All right, let's move forward. Stay in the Big 12. Texas is going to TCU from Austin all the way to Fort Worth to take on the 3-3 Horned Frogs. Texas is a 1-point favorite in this spot. We have a Tony Johnson pick. He's not with us now. He's in Florida, but Tony Johnson is taking Texas in this spot -1. I tend to agree with him in this spot. I think Texas, although TCU's defense is halfway decent in recent years, this year not quite as so much, giving up 24.7 points per game. I think Texas and Sam Ehlinger are going to probably be in a little bit more of a dogfight than they expect, but I think they'll kind of stay at arm's length, probably win this game by 6 to 10 points.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm on Texas as well in this one. I think the Longhorns offense is enough to get past that TCU defense, and the total, I don't really know. I don't have a play on that, but 56 is the current total, but my play is Texas.
Yeah, I mean, TCU is no slouch. I mean, they're able to put up points. They average 33.8 points a game this year. On their side, Max Dugan, 874 yards, 9 touchdowns, no picks. Excuse me. So, I mean, it's not like they're a slouch on offense. But, I mean, last year it was 31-16. Obviously, that would stay below this year's total. But I think I don't really have too much of a super play on this, especially after watching Texas narrowly escape with a 50-48 win against Kansas. All bets are off, really, with the total. You know, it seems like it could go way over in that spot. So when you're shooting out with Kansas, anything's possible. I think Texas ultimately will end up with a win here, going away in that spot. So if you like points, 57, you might want to take that over because both teams are averaging in the 30s, so that would definitely scream over in that spot, especially with a total of 57. Auburn and LSU, the next game on the docket here. This is a big game in the SEC. LSU is laying 10.5. I'm curious, LSU, if LSU had played fundamental offense, played to where they usually play, what this line would be, because Auburn, while haven't looked great, they're still 6-1 on the road. They are 2-1. Only loss, obviously, to Florida, which common opponent LSU beat by 2 touchdowns. This line has jumped from 6.5 to 10.5 from that opening line, so a 4-point movement in favor of LSU. Total is 59. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a pretty high total in this kind of game usually. I mean, you kind of think both these teams have pretty good defenses, all that. I have a play on the under, which is 59. However, I do think LSU will cover. And kind of a closer kind of game, 27-14, something around there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the defenses. LSU's defense is only allowing 20 points a game. Auburn's defense only allowing 17.1, but the offenses, I mean, 36 points for Auburn and 50 points a game for LSU. Last year, LSU on a last-second field goal beat Auburn 22-21. You don't think it's going to be even that close at this point?
No, I think they won by almost 2 touchdowns. I mean, I think LSU is definitely trying to make that statement, especially against the opponents in the SEC, and they just go full throttle and try and destroy the Auburn Tigers. So.
If they win this game by 3 touchdowns or more, would you consider them the best team in the SEC? Or even in the country?
They're playing definitely Auburn, which is a tough opponent and key opponent. I mean, if they throttle them like that, I mean, it's hard to disagree with. But you got Alabama, but they haven't played too many people that have been worth a damn right now, and Clemson, which is pretty much the same. So, I mean,
you got Ohio State too. I would say of those four teams, they've had the toughest schedule. They've gotten through Texas. They've gotten through Florida. You would have to look and see that they've beaten Mississippi State. It's. I would say they've played the toughest schedule, and they've obviously come out of that undefeated 7-0-3-0.
Yeah, I mean, they even played Texas A&M too.
I don't think they've played Texas A&M. I have to look at this.
Oh, it might have been Texas that I'm thinking of. Like you said.
Yeah, they played Mississippi State last week, and they beat them pretty easily. I believe they still have Texas A&M on the schedule. I'll have to get crack research on that one. Let's see. They have not played A&M yet. They have. They have
towards the latter part of the season.
They have A&M the last game of the year. And remember the last game of the year last year against A&M, it was that 6 overtime game when they lost 74-72. I don't know if you remember that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, so LSU still remaining has Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. So you could theoretically say they've got 3 tough games out of 5. 60% of their remaining schedule is against tough teams, and it starts with Auburn. For as much as they've done against Texas, Utah State, Florida, and Mississippi State, their work's really not done.
Yeah.
I think this moment will just be too big for Bo Nix. Remember, he's still a freshman. I understand they're 6-1. You have to look at common opponent. I understand Auburn went down to the Swamp. Really didn't challenge well with Florida. I'm hoping the defense keeps them in the game. 10.5 is a lot of points to lay. I would have loved to have rather had this line at 6.5, somewhere around 6.5. Money, gun to my head, I have no play in this game. Gun to my head, I'd probably lean towards Auburn with a double digit points in that spot. But I wouldn't love it. I wouldn't love it. LSU has the ability.
I kind of like it, but I definitely like the under a lot more.
Fair enough.
For sure.
Fair enough. All right, let's talk. Let's go back to the Big Ten afternoon games. We'll start with Penn State and your boys, Michigan State.
Sparty.
Yeah, Sparty on. Sparty on has been Sparty down. They are 4-3 this year, 2-2 in the conference. They got their doors blown in against Ohio State, which, let's face it, who hasn't this year? Yeah. Another Big Ten team coming in, 7-0, 4-0 is Penn State. They are number 6 in the nation right now. They barely, I wouldn't say barely, they had a tough game against Michigan. Probably should have, maybe, you get that tying catch where the guy just dropped it and wide open. We go to overtime. Anything could have happened at that point. But they come in, Michigan State. We know about Michigan State's defense. Hasn't been quite what it is in the past. Brian Lewerke's not really getting any better. Against Wisconsin, he had thrown for 53 yards and a pick in 3 quarters in that 38-0 loss. They're almost, I think they're second to last in the Big 12 with 117 rushing yards a game. And they don't really have much going on there up in the East Lansing. Is there any silver lining you could give for Michigan State fans at this point? They're facing 6.5 and a total of, where did we go here? A total of 43.
If anybody's going to this game that's a friend of mine, you better be drunk by game start. Otherwise, it's not going to be enjoyable.
You think they got no shot?
No shot at all. I comfortably lay the 5.5, and if college football had Caesars, I would definitely put this in a Caesar. I think Penn State wins by 2 touchdowns at least. Yeah. I just think this Michigan State defense is like Swiss cheese. They allow big plays here and there, and they let opponents move changing the key spots and keep their defense on the field, and you can't win games by doing that. So.
Well, there you go. That comes from Sparty fan himself, Token Tony. This game smells trappy. I mean, like you're saying, 7-0, 4-0 in the Big Ten. Penn State, number 6 in the nation. You know, obviously having to go to East Lansing. You know, they don't play. You know, they don't play Michigan State often, but when they do, it gets close. So, you know, last year it was Michigan State 21-17. Previous years, last 6 times they've played, it has been decided by 10 points or less. So, I think you might be underestimating your boys. I think they might give Penn State a game. This line just feels trappy. It feels like you should pound Penn State. I feel like Penn State might be in for a close game. I think they win by 3 to 6 points going away. And depending on what line you get right now, Caesars has it at 6.5, DraftKings 5.5. If you're going to jump on this game, depending on what side you like, you may need to jump on it now if you're a Penn State backer. But if you're not a Penn State backer, if you're not a Penn State backer, if you're back in Michigan State, you might want to wait to see if that line maybe goes up, trickles up to +7, +7.5. So it'd be an interesting one.
Yeah, it's definitely one I'm going to watch and probably blow my brains out by halftime. So.
Yeah, we got another Big Ten team that surprisingly is also 7-0 and 4-0 in the conference. Number 16, Minnesota, kind of playing that little Cinderella story. Golden Gophers, 7 consecutive wins to start the season. Last week, 42-7 beat down of Rutgers, but let's face it, who doesn't beat Rutgers to a pulp? Speaking of Rutgers, actually, this is an embarrassing. This is an embarrassing factoid for the program. So they play Liberty this week, right? Big Ten Rutgers plays a brand new to FBS conference play, and they're an underdog to Liberty.
I'm not surprised by that.
How embarrassing is that for you as a Big Ten program to be an underdog to? I don't know if they're in a conference. If they're in a conference, it might be like the Sun Belt or Conference USA. And if they're not in a conference,
I was thinking Conference USA or something.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're in a conference at this point. But the point being is that you have Rutgers, a Big Ten team, which, I mean, kudos to Greg Schiano and Ray Rice for getting this team into the Big Ten. But other than that, they have been a complete dumpster fire. It's only for the TV dollars at that point.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you got that Big Ten premium and all that, and that's the only thing that they're riding right now. I mean, this program's pretty bad.
So back to Minnesota, they are hosting Maryland, who started out the season really well, just creaming teams, Syracuse. Then they got beat by Temple, and it seemed like their psyche was just shaken. This is an interesting one because depending on what sportsbook you're looking at, the lines are all across the board. The consensus line is 17, but I'm going to go over these real quick. You have Bet365 at 15, PointBet at 15.5, MGM 16.5, FanDuel 15, Unibet.com 20, DraftKings 16.5, Caesars Sportsbook 16.5, 888 Sports 18.5, Westgate 16. The lines are everywhere.
Oh, that's crazy.
I know.
There wasn't like a 14 in there or something.
There actually is a 14. BetAmerica.com, 14.5.
Jeez.
Yeah, it is all over the board with these lines. I don't know if they're enticing you to take Maryland or to keep rolling on Minnesota, but with a it's a weird one, man. Minnesota, 11 of their last 13 games have won. I don't see them really being challenged in this game. They have a good team, and PJ Fleck has just got the ball rolling. He's got Minnesota turned around. I think they stay perfect. I think they cover this. Well, let's go with a consensus 17. I think they cover 41-21 in this spot. They win by 20 points.
Yeah, I think they do cover. They win by about 3 touchdowns, but I think it'll be a lower scoring. I'd roughly say like a 37-14 kind of game.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Minnesota did lose to this Maryland team 42-13 last year, but I think we're on a completely different wavelength. This team, I think.
No, it's a whole new year, a whole new regime at Minnesota. And
one team's trending down at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, you ride the wave sometimes, and hopefully you don't run into a tunnel.
If you say so. I don't even know what that means. All right, let's move into the late games. First one on the docket is Alabama versus Arkansas. Yep. They are 32-point favorites, even without Tua Tagovailoa, however you say it. We're going to get sophomore quarterback Mac Jones in his first career start. And if there's anybody, the best team to start against, not named Tennessee, it's Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely a good spot for him to come in and get the start.
Well, he's definitely got a lot of weapons. You know, he's got Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. I mean, he's got plenty of guys to throw the ball to. So, if anything's going to be for him, I think Nick Saban's focal point is going to obviously be make sure Najee Harris can pace the offense, get him over 100 yards, get this game with the defense and the running game, get out to 28-0 lead, and just kind of hope to coast in that point.
Yeah, I was thinking kind of similar to game plan or something along those lines, which I do like the under in the spot, which is currently 55.5. I'm not touching the spread. Not at all. I mean, it's too many points where we haven't seen Jones start a game, let alone barely in a game. But this Alabama team's good, so I mean, it's worrisome to back the underdog and worrisome to back the favorite. So,
yeah, I mean, Arkansas hasn't won a conference game in over 2 years now, and that doesn't look to be changing this weekend. I think you're right.
Weekend, well alone this rest of the year, probably.
Yeah. That being said, I think Arkansas. This is not even a matter of their team. When I say this, I just believe that Alabama's going to be all about just coasting and getting wins because of their reputation. If they win the game by 3 touchdowns, they'll be fine. So I think, like I said, getting out to a 3-touchdown, 4-touchdown lead and just coasting. I think I might take Arkansas with 32 points in this spot. Maybe even a teaser. Get myself 10-point, 3 team.
46.
Well, 3-team 10-point teaser and get myself 42 points. Get myself 6 touchdown cushion. I mean, I don't think Nick Saban's going to try to win this game by 6 touchdowns.
I don't think so either. I mean, unless if he's really looking to see what Jones has for his future at Alabama, but
could be. I mean, these guys who, other than Tua Tagovailoa, Alabama quarterbacks haven't been, lighting the world on fire. So we'll see. I mean, he was 6 of 11 for 72 yards after replacing Tua in the win over Tennessee, where they won 35-13. So, yeah, I think we're looking somewhere. I think Arkansas is good for 10 points. I think we're looking somewhere in the 40 to maybe 38-10 range. I think somewhere around there.
Yeah, I was thinking something around there too. And under comes in, and Alabama comes close to that magical spread number, but just a bit short. So, plays the under on this one for me.
All right, let's move on to Boston College at Clemson. We have a line of, where we got here, 35. 5 touchdowns, total 59. I want to say that this line should be an easy cover. Boston College has been on a free fall at this point. And then you have Clemson, obviously, who hasn't lost a game yet, fell in the rankings for that narrow victory against North Carolina. They have won 23 straight games. Clemson has. So 19 straight at home and 40 of their last 41 home games. There's obviously zero chance that Boston College wins. Can they keep it within 5 touchdowns? It seems like it would be a tough task to do because I think Clemson, with Tua going out, has a chance to move into that number 1 spot if they beat this team by 8 touchdowns.
It is possible. I do like Clemson in this spot as well as the over. I do think Boston College does put up a few points, like 7 to 14 kind of range. But Clemson just scores massive. They might even cover the total by themselves.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to do. I mean, I think you're probably right. I think we're looking at something like 51-10 in this spot. I just, okay, other than the North Carolina game, they have looked great. I mean, they're 10th in the nation in total offense. They are 8th in the nation in scoring offense, 5th in defense, 8th in scoring defense at 12 points a game. I mean, yes, they had one setback, and Trevor Lawrence has looked a little bit inconsistent. He's got 8 picks this year, but I think he calms that down a little bit. Travis Etienne leads the ground game, and they win this. They win this by 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I could see that easily, and maybe even a little more. So, be not a great one to watch, but if you like a good bloodbath, this one will be a good one to tune in, I guess.
This one. Here's a game that I thought it kind of interests me. Obviously, the big game on the docket at the night is Notre Dame and Michigan, but this is a game I kind of wanted to. This just feels like a Tony Johnson game to me. Obviously, we know he likes Utah, has futures on Utah, but you have Utah hosting Cal, which Cal is another team. They started out 4-0, now they're 4-3. Utah is a 21-point favorite, but the total is only 36.5.
Yeah, that's probably due to Cal probably not scoring, and Utah's really good scoring defense. So.
Well, yeah, you're probably right with that. Cal's only averaging 20 points a game on offense. Utah's only allowing 11.7.
Yeah.
But, geez, have you ever seen a spread that big with a total that low?
No, not at all. I mean, even if you take, like, some crappy games with some horrible weather, like downpour rain or, like, even some snow or something, like, say, late in the year Minnesota games or something like that, where the team's kind of used to it and hosting, like, maybe kind of like a team that's from a little more south that's maybe not used to that kind of weather and stuff like that. But, I mean, yeah, that's very, very, very high. That would be that big of a spread. And so this is probably one where if you like doing parlays with the same game, you probably can't because they contradict too much.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of bullshit on a sportsbook's part. You know what? You put it out there, you should offer it.
Yes.
But I'd say I'd take the 21 points in favor of Cal, and I'd take the over. I think if Cal gets their average, which is 20 points a game, I mean, I think Utah's better than them. I think Utah will beat them. I think you're looking at an easy over in this game, but what do I know?
I think Cal does put up some points. I don't think quite as much as 20. I see like the 10 to 14 kind of range. But however, Utah might cover this total by themselves, and I would take Utah minus the 21.
Wow. All right. We're on different sides of that one. So
yeah, both over on the total, though.
All right, what do you like with this Oregon team? They're taking on Washington State. This line opened up, obviously, when Washington State was a bigger opponent than they were ranked early in the year. They're now 4-3. Things have gone awry for them. Oregon 6-1, looking like probably the Pac-12's only hope, maybe Utah, of making the playoff. Things look grim. Obviously, they're going to have to face each other, but 14 points. You think Oregon's got an easy cover in this one? 66 is the total.
I would lean towards Oregon with the cover. However, my play on this one's the over. I think Washington State's offense will produce enough to push it over, and Oregon with the victory, 37 like 24, something like that.
Fair enough.
Maybe actually a little higher. Yeah.
That's kind of where
probably
I was at, too.
Mid 40s, probably even for Oregon. I wouldn't be surprised with that.
Yeah, because 37-24 doesn't really get the over.
Yeah, I know.
I like the over, but I think the score's going to be under. Justin Herbert's looking a little better this year. They had to come back against Washington. It was an impressive comeback, but they had to come back against Washington nevertheless. Other than that opening loss to Auburn, Oregon's looked pretty good. I mean, the only thing I can say is, I think Oregon's probably going to be fine in this game as far as winning it. But Washington State can put up some points. I mean, they average 42 a game, more than Oregon, which, I mean, when's the last time we saw an Oregon team only really average 35 points a game, and their defense only giving up 12?
Yeah, that's pretty odd. I mean, that sounds like not a typical Oregon kind of team. So
yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I think you're probably right, though. Somewhere around 45-35, I think, might be in the range here. So, all right, let's talk about the last game on the docket before we wrap up here, and that's Notre Dame and Michigan in Ann Arbor. Michigan basically, I would say, is all but out of discussion for the playoff unless somehow they win the Big Ten, and even then I think it's a real outside shot. Almost less than 1% that they're going to make it. But Notre Dame can still definitely get into this playoff discussion. 6-1, their only loss against Georgia, which now Georgia's loss against South Carolina makes the loss against Georgia does not look as great. But nevertheless, we have Michigan as a 1-point favorite in this game. Notre Dame is a 1-point favorite in this game. This line did open up Michigan as a 7-point favorite in the beginning of the year before the games were even played. Michigan is 4-0 at home, but Notre Dame, Ian Book, has been good, not great.
Yeah, that's for sure. One thing I look forward in this game is how well the defense plays and handles opposing offenses. And this is one play for me for sure is the under. It's currently 50.5. I still think it's way too high. I mean, both these defenses are better than I think they are made out to be. And I see a kind of close game. I see like a 20-17 kind of game. Probably Notre Dame with the victory, but not a play on the spread for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one to watch. Obviously, like I said, Ian Book versus Shea Patterson. Patterson looked good last week against Penn State. Should have come out with the tie there. Maybe, who knows what would have happened in overtime. He had 276 yards passing, rushed for a touchdown. And I don't know. Michigan seems like they're putting it together a little bit too late. They can still obviously disrupt playoff talk with beating Notre Dame and beating Ohio State, which let's not get ahead of ourselves with beating Ohio State. Both defenses, you're right, are good, averaging less than 20 points a game on defense each. Michigan, I mean, like I said, they've won the last 4 at home. They've actually won 12 in a row at home, dating back to 2017. So I got to give the edge to Michigan in this spot. I'm going to take Michigan money line. They've burned me so many times in the past, and I just never seem to learn my lesson. But I'm hoping for that one time that they do it, so I can say, "Ha-ha!" And this is probably not going to be that much.
What would you say? Would you say if they screw you over, they blacklisted kind of like Alex Norton for you?
I keep saying that they're blacklisted, and then I keep fucking betting on them. I don't know what they are. They're like a
it sounds like Alex Norton all over again.
They're like a fucking gypsy. I swear to God. Like I'm like, yeah, fuck Harbaugh, fuck Michigan. Fuck the maize and blue. I'm never betting on these guys again. I bet on them against Wisconsin, and I blacklisted them after the Wisconsin game, and then I bet on them against Penn State 7.5, and they covered. So now they're back in my good graces, even though it's just I don't know. I'm taking.
They're a hot mess of a team.
They're a hot mess of a team, and they make me a hot mess of a gambler, and I think there's a word for that. Oh, degenerate. That's what it is. That's actually the word I was thinking. So to wrap up the show, fuck it, give me Michigan money line, and ship the money to my PayPal account.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be a dumpster fire. They're probably going to lose by 3 touchdowns in that spot, and people are, Harbaugh's bolting for the NFL. So, all right, any other games you got on the docket? That's all I had for the list here.
One last one I have for the evening games is Fresno State minus 14.5. They are hosting, what was it, Colorado State.
That can't be right. I thought Colorado State was playing an FCS team. You could be right, though.
Oh, I have. It's Colorado State at Fresno State. line currently 14
Oh,
and a
yeah,
half,
you're right.
total
Right. I was
56.
looking at something else. Yeah, you're right.
So,
All right, cool. You got like Fresno State got the Bulldogs on a late night ticket,
Yep.
eh? A little extra action.
yep.
All right.
Yeah, that's the rest of it.
Here it is. Here it is. Liberty -7 at Rutgers. At Rutgers.
Give me Liberty. I did look it up. They are independent right now.
They are independent.
They're not tied. Yeah, they're not tied to the conference.
There you go. So there it is. Liberty independent -7 at Rutgers. Gotta love it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, well, that being said, let's wrap up the show here by thanking the sponsors. First and foremost, 12-Ounce Sports, where we air every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, Saturday morning before the college games, and Sunday morning before your NFL action. We'll have our week 8 in the NFL. We'll have our week 8 NFL picks on Sunday morning, so you can get a daily dose of degenerate before you fade us on Sunday. But I think we're feeling good about these picks on Saturday, so tail us for the college football picks. If it doesn't win, we will give you a free promo code for 20% off of nothing on the Vegas Squares website. So take that to the bank. Also,
we could probably put our pens on the website or something like that.
Yeah, we'll sell it. We'll give you a 20% off our pen, or we'll give you a free pen if you can prove that you tailed all of our picks.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Tweet us at Vegas.
Like that guy.
That guy in
like
Atlantic
that guy
City who faded our Tennessee
Yeah,
pick.
exactly.
If you tweet us at Vegas Squares that you tailed all our picks and aren't profitable, we'll give you a free pen if you give us our shipping address, and you can tweet us with the proof that you made all the picks. All right, Seat Giant, promo code 12-Ounce Sports, discounts on sporting events, concerts, and theater tickets. Be sure to check out Seat Giant to get your college football tickets and your NFL tickets this weekend, so you can get them at a discount with promo code 12-Ounce Sports. All right, for Token Tony on the phone, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening in. If it's Friday, good luck tomorrow on your bets, and if it's Saturday, good luck right now on your bets. And we'll catch you on the next episode, which is our NFL Picks podcast. See ya.